moment of truth. Will these PCs boot? Let's find out.
3, 2, 1.
I'm Nate from Tesseract, and I'm working on the dedicated creator build.
And I'm Josh, the other half of Tesseract, working on a slightly tighter budget, but still awesome gaming build. Let's get to building.
Presented by Intel Gaming.
My build is all about performance. We're using Intel's latest flagship, the Core i9 285K processor, which has 24 cores, great for multitasking, gaming, editing, basically anything you throw at it. Then we've got this beautiful RTX 5080 from MSI going in the Lian Li 011 Evo case, and everything is white, so it all matches and it's gonna look great. What about you, Josh?
So I'm actually going to be using an all-Intel combo for this build. For the CPU, we've got the Core i7-14700K, alongside the Intel Arc B580 for the GPU. And yes, we are a little bit overkill on the CPU side here. If you are budget conscious, you can definitely save some extra cash by going with something like a 13400F. But hey, I didn't pay for it, so I'm not complaining.
For the motherboard, I'm using the all-white MPG Z890 Edge from MSI. It's got a lot of great features like Wi-Fi 7, and for new builders, the easy M.2 shield, so you don't need a screwdriver to install your M.2, and you also have the easy PCIe release, so you can easily take out your GPU with a single button.
Meanwhile, my Asus Z790 Plus might not have Gen 5 M.2 SSD slots, but it does have DDR5 slots for RAM, you've got 2.5 gigabit LAN, and Wi-Fi 6E compatibility, all of which are built with, as Asus calls them, military-grade components, meaning this thing looks awesome and it'll stay consistent through long gaming sessions.
We do have two components in common, and that's our RAM and SSD. For RAM, we're using the DDR5 Corsair Dominator titanium sticks. I'm using 64 gigs, which is great for creators who edit and stream, and for our storage, we opted for Crucial's 2 terabyte M.2 SSD.
But hang on a second, Nate, how come you get twice as much as I do?
Listen, that's just because they like me more, okay? Let's get it into our case. So if you're new to PC building and you're not sure what to do first, we're gonna take you through all the steps and go through how we would build a PC at home. So first up, we have our motherboards here. See, I'm really excited that I have all the white parts.
It's gonna look good.
It's gonna look really nice.
This is the noisy part.
Wow, look at that. All right, now that we have our motherboards, we're gonna move on to our first step. So that's going to be putting in our CPUs. Now, if you're not familiar with what a CPU is, this is basically the brains of your PC, and this is gonna control everything. And we're gonna go ahead and slot those into our motherboard.
And to install the CPU, we are first going to unlatch this little latch right here.
Little lever,
and then we're going to pull back on here to expose the socket. Now you want to be a little bit careful here because you do not want to damage these pins.
So if you're curious in which direction your CPU goes in your motherboard, you can look right here and there's an arrow, and then also on your motherboard down at the bottom there's another arrow. So you just line those up together when you're about to put it in, just like this. And I would say people think that the CPU is like the scariest thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's one of the simplest actual processes to do. You're just dropping it into the slot very gently. You don't have to apply any pressure here, but yeah, it can be a little bit daunting first time. Now, once you actually have the CPU installed into the board, we're gonna take this cover here, we're gonna put it down, and this lever requires a lot of force to press it down. You almost feel like you're gonna break it, but if you keep going, you can latch it under there, and then this little thing will pop off, which you can keep for later, because if you ever take the PC apart, you might want to put this cover back on just to protect the socket. But yeah, with those steps completed, the CPU is installed.
All right, now we'll go ahead and get our RAM installed into our slots. Now for my build, I'm doing 64, and that's because I have a creator build and I'm gonna be editing, gaming, all of that, so I need that. And I believe you are going to be doing, is it 30, which one is yours?
We got the 32 gigabyte kit here of Corsair Dominator titanium. So 32 gigabyte tends to be the sweet spot nowadays for gaming. So we're only going to be using 2 sticks in this one. Nate is going to be using 4 and filling up all of those slots. So installation for the RAM is very simple. We're going to locate our 4 RAM slots right here. And because I'm only using 2 sticks of RAM, we're only going to obviously use 2 of the slots, but it's important that we use the right ones. We want to use on this motherboard the 2nd slot and the 4th slot. So we're going to unlock those, and this makes sure that we run in dual channel mode when we are running 2 sticks. So we'll take the stick of RAM, we're going to line up this down here, and once you've got it aligned, you're just going to take both your hands and apply even pressure on the top, and you should hear a nice click. And that's when you know it's in, and obviously we can repeat for the 2nd stick.
A lot of the times when people are building PCs and their PC doesn't boot, the RAM is usually the culprit. That has happened to us so many times where we've had to reseat the RAM.
Wow, yours looks much cooler
I
than
know,
mine.
right? I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we have our CPU, we have our RAM, next is time to move on to our M.2. So I'm using 2 terabytes from Crucial. You're using 1 terabyte from Crucial. Now I need a little bit more storage in my PC because I'm gonna do editing, I'm gonna do gaming. I've got a lot of programs that I'm going to be having on this PC, so I need a lot of space.
The good news is that you can always upgrade or add more later on if you want. So I think you have a bunch of M.2 slots on your motherboard.
I do. I actually think there's 5 on this motherboard. And the great thing about my motherboard is we have the easy toolless design, which means I don't have to use a screwdriver like Josh is on his motherboard. I can easily take my fingers and just pop it off just like that. All right, so when we're installing our NVMe, you have a little notch down here at the bottom. That's gonna be plugging directly into your motherboard. If you look on your motherboard, there's also like a little notch down here, and you just line these up together like this, and you'll hear a click. And then you just push down and move your clip, just like that.
And mine is a little bit different because my slot is actually facing the other way. So I'm gonna, again, align the notch with the notch on the motherboard. And you kind of want to insert it, I would say, at like a 30-degree angle. And once you hear that snapping like that, you're good to press down and then move this little latch across. And then now we're just gonna get the heat shields replaced. This is going to dissipate the heat that is produced from that M.2 SSD because they do kick out a fair bit of heat nowadays, especially this is a Gen 5 NVMe. So yeah, there's quite a lot of heat produced from these, and this is just going to help to keep everything nice and cool. So we're going to go ahead and get our motherboard installed into the case. So all we need to do is pop it in here like this and line it up with the standoffs, which in this case are pre-installed. Now I would recommend you actually lay the case down to do this, it's much easier, but so that you viewers can see it at home, I'm doing it standing up.
Okay, so now that he's installing his, I'll go ahead and put mine in the case as well, and we'll get that lined up with the standoffs.
Also, if you're using a cheaper motherboard, make sure to install the AIO shield here because you don't want to forget that because if you realize at the end of the build, this is really annoying to fix.
All right, so since I am doing a creator build, we're going to be using the 850 watt PSU for me, and Josh is going to be using the 750 watt. The great thing is with PCs nowadays, you only need a couple cables to plug into it. So we have our 12 volt cable that's going to go to our GPU. We have the outlet here. Flip that. Then we have our motherboard cable that's going to go right next to that one. Second part. All right, and then we have our CPU cable. And then last we have our SATA cable, which is going to be down here at the bottom. Just like that.
So to install the PSU, we're going to take off the rear panel right here. And then from here, we're going to go fan side down. That way the PSU can pull it in fresh air. And we're going to slip it in here like this. And then on the back here, you can see that you can kind of line it up and then get your screws put in. There should be 4 in total.
So now that you got your PSU in, we'll go ahead and put mine in. Mine looks a bit different because yours lays flat and mine is on the side. All right, so we'll go ahead and get this popped in here. We've got all our cables. Just slot it in like that. Make sure the fan is pointing outwards. You want to pull in that air. And it slots right in. So we're gonna go ahead and install our first 2 cables first. We're gonna do our motherboard cable. Gonna bring that around here, and that's gonna go directly into this port here. And then the next cable is the CPU. We're gonna take our cable here. It's gonna be the first one closest to the CPU socket, and we'll get that in.
That's all the cables that we're gonna do for now. I think next we're gonna get the AIO installed.
Sounds good.
Now, there's a couple of ways that you can cool your PC. You can use an air cooler. In this case, we are going to be using a water cooler. So this is an AIO, which is an all-in-one water cooler. And we're going to get this unboxed, and then we'll show you how to install it. These look like bags of candy.
Okay, so we have our AIOs here. We have our fans. They're not on there. We need to put them on. Now, in your little bag of goodies that comes in your box, you will find some rad screws that you are going to use to put your fans into the rad.
And the frame side of the fan should be facing this way because it's pushing air through the radiator.
So a lot of people will think that, especially new people, they always think that water cooling their PC is always the best option. Granted, these are AIOs, there is water in there and you're water cooling, but I'm talking about custom water cooling. Now, Josh and I have built a lot of water-cooled PCs, and you'd be surprised there's not that big of difference of temperatures unless you got multiple rads in a case.
But it does look cool.
It does look cool. But when in doubt, I always tell people to go for an AIO. Simple, easy, and they have a lot of really cool styles.
Yeah. I should probably also mention that depending on which AIO you purchased, it may or may not have thermal paste pre-installed. This one from Corsair does. However, the one from MSI needs it put in on the CPU, which we'll show you how to do in a second.
Yeah, so you can see right here, we can put our bracket and slot it in just right there. Like that. And because there's tape on there, it should sit pretty good. And then we're gonna grab our standoffs and put those in the front. So you'll have 4, and you'll just slot those in. Well, they screw in. Okay, so we've got all 4 of our standoffs on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I do need to add a bracket to my AIO because Josh's already came pre-installed with the brackets on that, but mine did not, so we'll have to put those on. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put my brackets on my AIO. So you can see I have my bracket here. There's like little slits on the side that just pop in like that. And then on the back side, there's screws, which I have here, that you just screw in.
And I would recommend that you use this opportunity to daisy chain your fans because the cables are quite short, and once we have it installed up there, it's going to be quite difficult to reach these. So basically just taking each of these connectors and plugging it into the one next to it. And there's actually 2 cables on each fan. So one is to power the fan and control the speed of it, and the other one is this 3-pin ARGB connector, which is what's going to control the RGB and make them look pretty. Time to get the AIO installed now, so we'll take the radiator here and gently put it into the top of the case like this, and then Nay is going to pop a few screws in there.
Easier to do it in the corners first. Okay. So I need to take the top of mine off. Like that. Go ahead, pop that in.
If you build in the PC by yourself, it is much easier to just lay the case down, but since there's 2 of us, we can help each other out. So I'll take this protective plastic off, and then we'll line up the cooler right here onto the standoffs that we installed earlier. And then Nave, you want to put one of those screws on.
All right, you want to push a little pressure onto this just to get it onto the screw.
And then switch to the opposite corner, and you can tighten in a cross pattern.
Okay, and now that we have all 4 of them on, this is when you can go in and go ahead and tighten all of these. You don't want to go too tight, you just want to go until it tells you to stop. Like that. Now, Josh's PC already had the thermal paste installed on the AIO. We're gonna go ahead and install our own right onto the CPU. We'll keep the PC up so you guys can see it's much easier that way than on the top down. Take a little pea size and dab it right in the middle.
There is a bunch of different methods you can use for applying thermal paste as well. Some people like to do an X, some people do a line, some people do a pea-sized dot in the middle. There's not a huge difference between temperatures between all of the different methods, so just do whichever you're comfortable with.
Pop that on right there. All right. So we have 2 cables coming off our AIO. We have our 3-pin RGB, and then we have our power PWM. We're gonna plug this one up at the top in the CPU fan. And then for this motherboard, it doesn't have the 3-pin up at the top, has it down at the bottom, so we'll just cable route it down here. We'll plug in our cables up here in the front. So first up, we have our USB. This is where you're going to be plugging in all your USB cables on your case. That plugs directly into here. And then our USB-C cable plugs onto the side here. This is our front panel connector. This is going to turn on the button on the front of your case. That goes right into the front, down on the bottom. Then you have your HD audio. This is for if you're gonna be listening to music with your headphones plugged in. Most people usually have Bluetooth headphones, but you can still plug it in if you want. And because this case has an RGB strip on it, we also have a 3-pin RGB cable that we're gonna plug in at the bottom as well.
Time to install the fans. Now, you can actually fit quite a few fans into this case. We're just going to be doing a very simple setup. So we're going to be doing 3 on the side. These are going to be intakes. And then, of course, we have our radiator on the top with the exhaust. Now, I actually got white fans, just like yours, Nick.
Wow.
Maybe you were supposed to have all of these fans.
All for my case.
Yeah, so we're going to have a little bit of a panda black and white look here, which should look interesting. So we'll unbox these. And fans come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. These are 120mm, and they are daisy chainable. So a lot of brands now are doing fans that either daisy chain to each other, or in this case, they are magnetic, so they snap to each other. And it just makes cable management a lot easier. You don't have so many cables running all over the back of the case.
That is the great part. And then on the sides of them is where we'll insert the clips.
They have color-coded connectors, so right here we got like a black and a white side. You basically just match it up with the connector here, and then slot it in like that. Side fans are going into the case right now. I'll hold that there, and then Dave, you want to get those screws in. And if you want to, you can also put 3 fans on the bottom as well. That way you can have intake here and intake here as well. Just depends how much airflow you kind of want in the case and what you plan to do with it.
And then we'll move on to your fans. Okay, that's all the screws in for that. Okay, with that done, it's time to install the GPU. Now, this is the RTX 5080, and it can edit 4K video without breaking a sweat, but it wasn't cheap. We got it for around $1,500, making this the most expensive part of my build.
On the other hand, my Intel Arc B580 is super budget friendly, clocks in around $300, and can easily handle high refresh rate 1080p ultra gaming, and you can even dip your toes in 1440p as well. Should we get them installed?
Yeah. Ooh, I always love this card. It's so pretty. I love the new design that MSI has done with these ones.
Yeah, then on this one, we have like a little bit of a carbon fiber effect on the front. Pretty minimalist design, but I think it'll look quite stealthy inside the case.
So with this motherboard, it's pretty simple. You don't have to unlatch anything here for the GPU. You just slot it in here, line it up with the PCIe, and then it should slot into place, just like that. And we'll screw in our screws, just like that.
And then we're going to take the Intel Arc B580 and do the same thing. We're going to line it up into the socket right here and push until you hear a click. And some cases nowadays come with a built-in support bracket. When you have like a bigger GPU, it can sometimes sag a little bit. So yeah, if you do have one, you can always use that as well. This GPU is very compact, so we shouldn't need it for this.
So when I build my PCs, I typically like to run my cable from the side here. A lot of people will run them from the bottom, but I don't like that it looks like it's stretched, and I just don't like seeing lots of cables underneath my GPU. So I always run it from the side and then plug it in, and then I pull it tight in the back.
And then we'll get mine plugged in as well, just like that. We've got a little bit of cable management to finish off around the back side of the case, but we'll see you guys when it's done.
It's time for the moment of truth. Will the PCs boot? Let's find out.
We'll start off with mine. So first we need to make sure that the switch on the PSU is turned on, like this. And then we're gonna press the power button in 3, 2, 1.
Look at that.
It works.
Are all your fans on? Yep, we
Yes,
got the white
they are.
ones, the ones on top.
And then we have a successful post. Nay, should we try yours?
Yeah, let's go ahead. 3, 2, 1. There we go. All the lights are working. Yep, there we go.
Nice
Good work.
There we have it, guys. 2 very different PCs with very different price points and goals, but both powered by Intel.
Thank you so much for watching. We're Tech Tesseract, and if you want to check out some of our videos, make sure to check out our channel for powerful PC builds and more awesome tech. In the meantime, for all things gaming, keep it here on IGN.